The bathroom is increasingly being designed with the care that you would give a real room. And then also for those who have outdoor spaces, we're seeing outdoor bathing on the rise, like all outdoor activities. So, whether indoors or out, the bathroom is really treated like that intentional space, like a spa for physical and mental wellness.
That's Lisa White, WGSN's Creative Director and Director of Interiors. She's talking about the bathroom as an intentional space in this week's episode of the Create Tomorrow podcast. We felt it was time to revisit wellness since we last discussed it on the podcast about a year ago. And wellness themes play a major part in our flagship report, Big Ideas 2024. This report's just landed on all of our product design platforms, and it's one of our most popular reports with clients. It looks ahead to see how trends will shape what consumers need and want in 2 years' time, and we apply it to all of the industries we serve. So keep listening if you want to find out what a bathfluencer is, and why we're becoming interested in mood foods, and also why snacking can actually be good for you. Plus, find out which Friends star has launched a cleaning line, and no, it's not Matt Le Blanc. Joining myself and Lisa on the podcast is Claire Varga, our Director of Beauty, and she explains to listeners what one of our big ideas for 2024, caretaking, is all about.
This is really very much about a resetting of priority, and we've sort of described it as sort of saying goodbye to hustle culture and hello to care culture. So it's really about people prioritising their well-being over work. I think, as we're emerging from the pandemic and everything that's happened over the past 2 years, it's become, we have a much more increased awareness of our interdependence. And as a result, we're looking for products and services and even environments that help us take better care of each other as well as ourselves. And that's the difference here. It's not just this inward focused thing. It's very much about taking care of each other. And what we're starting to see is that to achieve this, people are adopting these flexi lifestyles that are really recentered around the things that are important. So family, friends, community, all the stuff that really, really matters. And it's going to create lots of new product moments and lots of new consumer needs to be fulfilled. So it's really an exciting time. So whether it's about designing hybrid products for, hybrid working or for shorter weeks, or it's about, creating portable products or, as we go back into the world that recreate that sensation of home and caretaking wherever we are. It's really about building an ecosystem of products that help people live and manifest their best, most balanced lives into being, really.
In terms of this, I think creating the sensation of home is a really important part of care, right? Because that's where you feel comfortable, it's familiar. So I really want to ask Lisa how interiors are really evolving to accommodate this caretaking. There must be some changes happening that you're seeing.
Absolutely. We've really seen that interiors are increasingly seen as wellness spaces, and that is, in both home and public space, and both for physical and especially mental health as well, too. And so in the home, we're seeing people focusing on all aspects of home health, if you will. So it's quality of materials, for example, making sure that the foams and the fabrics and the paints in your home and public spaces don't emit VOCs and hazardous chemicals. It's about the quality of air, and there's new air purifiers designed at all price levels, including IKEA. And then also well-designed daylight lamps that bring that feeling of sunshine deep into February, where we are right now. And of course, plants. It's almost always seems to be, every podcast that I do, I bring up plants, but they are proven air cleaners and mood lifters. And in the home, and also public spaces too, we're seeing the rise of conservatory spaces and nooks as well. And they combine all these wellness elements together, including as much sunshine as possible. So it's really about creating a well-care space at home and elsewhere that's intended to work like daily home health care.
Our third guest this week is our colleague Rachel Tan. She's an analyst on our food and drink platform based over in Singapore. I asked her how notions of caretaking were playing out in the food and drink realm.
So in 2024, we'll see the emergence of a new persona that we're calling the mindful nurturist. This persona is going to prioritize care above everything, care for themselves, for the community, for the planet around them. And what they'll want with their food and drink is they'll turn to nature and adaptogens and traditional medicinal culture for their food and drink. And they'll want their food to work for them. So even in an everyday familiar snack like chocolate. For example, in the US, there's this chocolate bar brand called Nonverbal, and they work with Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic practitioners to design their single origin chocolate bars that support specific health functions. So they have a bar called Calm, which eases stress because they've included Codonopsis root in it, and a beauty bar called Glow, which helps you to boost skin health when you eat it, and it contains lycium, and a Chinese herb called He Shou Wu.
I love this sort of embracing of ancestral wisdoms and ancient sort of wisdoms that we're seeing, which we've been tracking a lot at WGSN, and it's sort of been very much related to decolonisation, but it's really coming through now, and it seems like it's a real core part of caretaking. And also this kind of taking time for yourself to make these sort of small ceremonies and rituals around your day. Claire, this is big in beauty, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly in terms of bathing. So, we talk about Lisa was saying about the kitchen being the hub. Well, I think the bathroom was our sanctuary during the pandemic. And, for people who were lucky enough to have a bathroom and could escape there, it became a real focus of new and sort of ancient practices and places that you could do your sort of rituals. And we saw this massive increase in popularity of bathhouse style wellness treatments. Now, every culture around the world has a bathing culture, so there's lots of inspiration. So whether it's Japanese onsen or Icelandic saunas, Turkish hammam, Russian banya, Indonesian flower baths, India's Ayurvedic baths. I could just go on and on and on. All this inspiration, and people even looking back historically as well. So looking to how the Greek and Romans bathhouse. So we saw lots of metal scraping tools coming through again, and really looking back at things. But it's just fascinating. And I think what's interesting about it is it's really about drawing on, as you say, this age-old wisdom, but also the timeless sort of beauty of these rituals and honouring their origins. So it's very much about the craftsmanship of the objects that you use and the meaning behind them. Last year on Pinterest, searches for spiritual cleansing bath shot up 180%. And we saw so many, bath rituals that were about serenity or escapism coming through. And what I loved is we saw the emergence of bathfluencers. So we had people like Inoki Bathhouse founder, Helen Yin. She became this amazing, viral sensation on TikTok when she posted tutorials about how to draw a proper bath and the art of it. And they're absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend going to have a look at them. But, it just expanded. And as I say, it just became about educating yourself. And we saw lots of really nice products coming through that had QR codes where you could, educate yourself about the history of the origin of the ritual and where it came from and what the meanings behind the ingredients were. You could download soundscapes. And it just, as I say, for people lucky enough to have a bathroom that they could escape to, it just became our escape, how we got away during the last few years. And it's just grown and grown and is here to stay, really.
And I mean, without a lot of us who commuted normally, there's that time we got back, right? So that's exactly, what a way to kind of break work into the evening, but something like a bathing ritual.
Yeah, and Twilight Beauty became a thing. We found these new beauty moments, and really, bathing or whether it was any other ritual, just the ritual of taking your makeup off became how we delineated the day. It helped us shift between work and rest. So it's a trend that I love and is just growing. So I'm glad it's one of those. I'm glad it's here to stay.
And I know also on social media there was a real move to kind of styling your bathroom and making it look really, really beautiful. Lisa, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know we've been writing about the bathroom being an intentional space, and that's part of caretaking as well.
Absolutely. The bathroom is increasingly being designed with the care that you would give a real room. So we are seeing rugs and plants and artwork on the walls and footstools and chairs. And, it's like a living room, basically. And then also for those who have outdoor spaces, we're seeing outdoor bathing on the rise, like all outdoor activities. So we're seeing people with yards and gardens create little forest bathing with showers and tin tubs. So, whether indoors or out, the bathroom is really treated like that intentional space, like a spa for physical and mental wellness. So there's accessories that Claire mentioned, premium towels, scent that's not just in soap and bubbles, but also candles and reed diffusers. We're seeing a lot more scent-scaping happening. And again, that helps bring you into and out of the day because the bathroom is also a great place for moving into sleep. And we're really seeing also a trend we're calling bathscaping. So it's setting the scene with herbs and fresh fruit and crystals and creams and masks and, all of the lovely things that can really make you feel like you're somewhere else.
And talking of being somewhere else, I know that we've not been travelling, but that's starting to open up, right? And presumably there's huge opportunity here with wellness. And I know I'm dreaming of like a yoga holiday. But what are we seeing there, Lisa? Is that growing, the wellness holiday, if you like?
Absolutely. I'm planning one too. And the Global Wellness Institute is predicting that wellness travel is going to account for 18% of all trips taken in 2022. And these trips are taken for physical fitness, like yoga, but also for emotional fitness. And I love the Six Senses resorts. They introduced the idea of emotional hospitality as their brand ethos. So really taking an integrated approach to wellness that's focusing on helping returning travelers reconnect with themselves in the wider world since we've been at home for so long. And they've got all sorts of products and services that connect the mind and the body. And my favorite spa right now in hotel, and I've not tried it yet, it's the barefoot hiking trail at the Quella Resort in Italy's Dolomites. So again, that's, mind and body, walking barefoot outdoors. I think it sounds really wonderful.
This is the Create Tomorrow podcast, and we're talking about the culture of caretaking and wellness in the home, but also in the beauty and food and drink space. Here, my colleague Rachel Tan discusses the growth of mood foods.
What we're seeing is a really dynamic rise in mood foods. So mood foods that could include the use of adaptogenic ingredients like we mentioned, but also things like CBD or mushrooms, lion's mane, reishi, things that really help to set consumers in a mood to appreciate their food, appreciate that time that you take to have a snack. We see these mood foods appearing in both food and drink. And actually, in the post-pandemic time, we're seeing a rise in low alcohol as a trend. It is really exploding. And instead of alcohol, brands are really innovating with such ingredients, adaptogens, CBD, terpene, adding these in place of alcohol for that mood lift.
That's interesting. And is that very much across the generational groups, Rachel, or is it millennial and Gen Z?
For sure, we're seeing this happen, especially so in the younger demographics, so the millennials and especially the Gen Z who are picking up low alcohol, no alcohol drinks, more so than the boomers. So this trend is something we're definitely seeing happening in the younger category. And because they're turning away from alcohol, it's opened up a whole host of white space for innovation for other categories, non-alcohol drink categories, to really jump in and fill that space. So that's where you see the rise in functional, ready-to-drink things in cans, sparkling water infused with mood food, functional hard seltzers and things like that.
And that's something we're sort of seeing being mirrored in beauty much more as well. I mean, as you say, it's not a new thing in beauty, but I think that the science is now, we have a much greater understanding of the effect of mood on our skin health, for example. And we think it's quite a short-term thing, that we boost our mood and it's okay. And we're now understanding that actually the effects of, stress and anxiety on our body and our skin are much more long-term. So we've, the last few years, all we've talked about is the skinification of everything. So, skincare moving into other categories. But now I think you could redefine that as very much the healthification of everything. So everything has got to have some sort of health benefit, and that includes boosting our mood to, enhance our skin and our well-being as a whole.
And I love that we've redefined the whole concept of snacking over this sort of time. Snacking's had a bad rap, I guess. Do you want to jump in there, Claire, a little bit and talk about that?
Yeah, I am a committed beauty snacker. This is one snacking behaviour I'm actually quite proud of and don't hide. So beauty snacking is very much about having small moments of self-care throughout the day. And it's another one of those pandemic behaviours that are here to stay. But what we're seeing now in beauty is that evolving into what we've called lazy beauty, which is basically, really smart ways to manifest more time for self-care throughout the day. One of our beauty personas going forward is we've called the lazy skinimalist, and they are basically the MacGyvers of self-care. That's how I sort of think about them. They manifest new beauty moments using like really smart beauty hacks, and they're really intentional about their self-care. I think the difference is it's about pragmatism, and we talked about the lovely bathing rituals earlier, and we know that that's not always something that we can all do or fit in. And there was a really interesting survey by Sanctuary Spa who found that on average we manage just 17 minutes a day for self-care, and that's way below the recommended 51 minutes. So I guess what the lazy skinimalists do, or lazy beauty does, is that you just embrace that rather than fight it. So, it's sort of guilt-free. It's about using really efficient products and smart beauty hacks. So it could be a single ingredient product that does lots of things in one and takes your skincare down to one step. But it's really about, embracing zero effort solutions. So it might be supplements, it could be beauty edibles, the things that Rachel mentioned, leave-on treatments, overnight treatments that work in the background while you're busy getting on with the really important stuff. So it's not lazy at all. It's just really, really smart, and I think brands need to be really pragmatic about what we can do in terms of self-care during the day, and we're seeing a lot of reframing as well about what counts as self-care. It doesn't have to be a full bathing ritual. Chatting with your mates, just like we're doing now, for me feels almost like self-care. Just sitting down watching a program, whether it's reading a book or anything. So it's very much about reclaiming and reframing what counts as self-care. That I think is the newness that's coming through here.
And interestingly enough, too, in the home, we're seeing people reframe housework, because we're using much more, wonderfully created house cleaning products that are things that are just as good as you could almost put them on your skin. So really taking a moment to just, make something shine, rearrange, some books and some plants and some knickknacks. That's actually a moment of self-care and mindfulness. So it's really interesting for brands that do create cleaning products to think about those cleaning products in terms of self-care.
Yeah, Courtney Cox just launched a cleaning line last week. Did you see it, Lisa? It's amazing. And I mean, you'd be happy to have it on your bathroom shelves. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it?
You just can't mix it up with your own stuff, but maybe you can, maybe it's just as good as shampoo. I don't know.
That's really channeling her Friends character, isn't it? That's hilarious. Yeah. Rachel, is that something, everyday care snacking? I think you've been writing about that on Food and Drink as well.
Yeah, so just as Claire mentioned, smart and convenient, those two things are going to play very highly into this trend of everyday care snacking. It is giving our consumers back this time that they can take for themselves over a snack, a food, or a drink. So carving out that moment in a day just for your own self-care. We see that in a brand such as a Nest Bloom in Singapore. So what they do is a bird's nest dessert. And traditionally, bird's nest is consumed for its beautifying properties. It's very high in collagen. In Asian culture, your mom will brew it for you. It takes hours. It's very laborious. But what Nest Bloom has done is they freeze-dried it into like a beautiful flower that you just pop into a cup of hot water. You watch it dissolve and bloom. And then at the end of that couple of minutes, you take that beauty and then you put it in your body. So it's just that idea of putting a self-care ritual into a smart, convenient format for consumers.
And I love that you said that was like, you know, your mum makes it for you. We've talked a lot about self-care and looking after ourselves, but I'd like to talk just a little bit about the opportunities. You know, gifting has been something. We've been in lockdown. Like, I think I've sent more flowers than I've ever sent in my life over this period, because you can't see people and you can't say happy birthday. And so presumably there's a real opportunity here in that space too.
Well, I think, you know, you saying you've gifted a lot of flowers. I think I've gifted a lot of self-care kits, you know, and they were either ones that I'd put together myself because I knew somebody was, you know, maybe having a rough time or feeling a bit low, but we saw the emergence of, you know, these self-care kits almost, you know, nights in, self-care nights. My favourite one was sort of, we call the trend self-romancing, which is a little bit dubious, but it was this idea of, you know, taking yourself on a date night, and there was kits that were for, you know, a date night in with yourself. And I love this idea of, you know, either gifting that to somebody else. And I think it's what's at the heart of caretaking, really, that we're very much focused on self-care for ourselves, but it's really about taking care of others and that extended feeling of it. And I think, you know, what Rachel said then about the business soup and her mum, it is that understanding. It's the, you know, the nostalgia, the comfort that brings with that, and the you know, the wellness benefits that has as well, of feeling safe and connected. And again, I just think I love that example. It's just such a beautiful ritual.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, as well too in the home, it's really about creating this space for other people, and if that's, you know, family members or if it's friends that you're inviting in. And, you know, as far as you were talking about, you know, spaces in gifting, but I think it's also the gifts that you can bring in interiors. And I know I've been trying to sell categories in self-care that you wouldn't think about, like, you know, cleaning your home, but, you know, there's lots of opportunity there. But I still think that there's a huge amount of opportunity in something like paint, because there's nothing that's going to affect your mood in either a public or a private space more than like a fresh coat of paint. And we're seeing a lot more daring paints coming out there in vitamin-laced brights like yellow or sky blue. And what's really interesting too, we're seeing this in healthcare spaces, that hospitals and clinics are using more beautiful pastels and brights because they're designing for wellness. They're not designing for illness. And you can really take that on board at home as well too. And how can you design for wellness in your space just with a fresh coat of paint at whatever price point it might be? But I'm seeing a lot of really interesting premium paint and disruptor brands that, you know, make it easy to repaint, you know, and really fantastic, you know, sustainable packaging that might be in pouches, and, you know, just coming with, you know, the entire kit of what you need to paint your home. But especially the fact that they are, you know, innovating in the types of colors that are being proposed, and organic compositions as well too. So you really can take a look at paint as being something very healthy. And we can almost imagine someday prescribing paint for people in order to feel better in their homes.
That's brilliant. I love that, designing for wellness, not illness. That's really interesting. That's a great white space opportunity in interiors. I just wondered, Rachel, perhaps where do you think there's a place where food and drink brands could take care more seriously and perhaps innovate?
Well, I think consumers are getting more familiar and also growing an interest in adaptogens. And I think food and drink brands can start to use them in everyday snacks across all day parts. And along with this trend of personalized nutrition, brands can actually start to develop more targeted functions, and in order to reach a more diverse demographic of consumers, whether for the young and the old in the home, women, men, different people have different nutritional requirements. And By leveraging these adaptogens, we can create a more diverse range of snacks to meet these different needs for different consumers. And of course, with this health and wellness top of mind and holistic well-being and all that, brands will really need to focus on natural, high quality, sustainable, even regenerative ingredients, while clearly signposting all the nutritional information, because people want that kind of realness and authenticity in their food these days.
And now with the return of the QR code, you can get it all in one easy zap.
Exactly. No need for the label.
So, Claire, what are you seeing here? What do you think brands should be thinking about in this space?
They need to really treat intentionalism as an active ingredient in the beauty space. So it's almost embedding self-care into a product. And experiences, so that they almost become enablers of self-care for people. They've got to make it easy for them. And I think it's going back to what I was saying about being pragmatic about how much time we really all do have in our days for self-care. So it's about creating products that are, effective and engineering new beauty moments for people. So whether it's, my favourite thing of all time, which is collagen granola. Who doesn't want skincare granola? We've also seen like beauty breads coming through. So turning your coffee break into a beauty moment is a great way to engineer more time for self-care. And I think it's about making it guilt-free as well. So by actually putting intentionalism on par with all the other active ingredients that you have in a product, then it's really about taking that really seriously and elevating that as part of the appeal.
Great. Let's end on a fun question to you all of your kind of ideal moment of self-care. What is it, or what would it be if it isn't something you can actually do, but you're dreaming? I know it's barefoot for you, Lisa, but there might be something else. Barefoot walking in the Dolomites. What's the easy thing, I guess, you do right now that brings you that moment of calm and reassurance?
I guess mine revolves around water in both ways, because it's, caring for my plants, usually on a 5-minute break, go and have a chat, taking off a leaf, watering the plants, but then also every single night taking a bath with a book, tea, wine, whatever. That bath moment is really special.
Claire, for you, what's your moment?
I have so many, but I think, my ultimate self-care moment is a nap in the afternoon. It's such an underrated, it's just, I think that's heaven. And sometimes it's not even sleeping. I think just taking 5 minutes to sometimes just close your eyes and, if one of my cats joins me, all the better. And I find that is a really, really easy way for me just to reset. It's perfect. I could also put baths, hot buttered toast, and many, many skincare sort of products in there as well. But I think a nap is the most wonderfully regenerating, well-being thing that you can do.
Definitely around 4:00. I think it's interesting you mention your cat, because I think that's another thing over the pandemic. I go for a walk with a dog, and that's obviously what people have been looking for in this boom of buying pets. Rachel, what about you? Is there something foodie or non-foodie related?
Well, for me, it would be a nightcap. Just to round off the day after the kids have gone to bed, the house is dark, it's quiet. Maybe a glass of wine, or if I'm feeling a little more healthy, a cup of red date tea, which is supposed to be good for women, and it just helps to bring the day to a close really nicely.
Hopefully listening to this has brought a sense of calm to you. Thank you to my guests for this episode, Claire Varga, Lisa White and Rachel Tan. If you're a WGSN subscriber, you'll find many reports covering the care economy, caretaking and wellness on all of our platforms. In particular, take a look at Future Drivers 2024 and Big Ideas 2024. If you want to find out how to subscribe, head over to WGSN.com to discover how you can get access to our service. We're constantly publishing new content focusing on how we can design a brighter, better future for our industries, including food and drink, interiors, beauty, fashion, and consumer tech. You can subscribe to the show on all major podcast platforms, and if you like what you've heard, why not leave us a rating and review on iTunes? That just leaves me to thank Roland Bodenham, our podcast producer, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for our next episode. Bye for now.